Hey everyone, Neil here, and before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that you can now send us voice messages at speakpipe.com/livingplanet. It's super easy, just a few clicks, and you can record right from your phone or computer. Don't be shy, we'd really love to hear your thoughts, questions, or feedback. That's speakpipe.com/livingplanet. And now let's get started with this week's episode.
I still remember it was 2015 or 2016. I saw this pair of jeans surfing the waves like spread eagle.
It's the first time Liz Ricketts has seen textile waste on the coast of Ghana since she began visiting the West African country in 2011.
And then you fast forward to today, and there are piles of textile waste taller than me.
Tentacles. That's what Liz and others call the piles of tangled clothes that appear along the shore.
You know, when you put too much clothing in the washing machine and it wraps around itself. So by the time clothing makes its way to the ocean, it wraps around itself like that. And these can be up to 10 meters long, these clothing tentacles, and they eventually sink to the bottom of the seafloor. So it's not only an environmental crisis here, but it is a public health crisis.
Microplastics from synthetic fibers are polluting our waterways, our soil, and even finding their way into the food we eat. The reach of our clothing stretches further than we imagine, its tentacles smothering natural habitats. Local fishermen haul in their nets, not brimming with fish, but tangled with tattered textiles. Liz is from the US and was a designer and stylist, but she set up the OR Foundation after witnessing the fashion industry's throwaway culture firsthand. One thing the non-profit does is organize cleanups of a small stretch of beach in Ghana, where they pick up about 20 tons of textile waste each week. About 150 people take part in the colossal effort.
It is not your standard cleanup. It is truly an athletic feat.
But they're fighting a losing battle. Each week they go back and tackle new piles of clothing, nearly all of which are shipped in from places like Europe and the US.
This has all happened in less than a decade, and this is the result of the fast fashion business model.
This week on Living Planet, we're taking a deep dive into the fashion industry, because making clothes turns out to be a pretty polluting business. Somewhere between 2 and 10% of all greenhouse gases produced comes from getting and processing the fibers we need for our attire. That's more than emissions from all the planes and ships sailing around the world, not to mention the huge water consumption and contamination that comes from making and dyeing textiles. So, can we really clean up fashion? Some proposed fixes, like buying vintage or second-hand, may not be as green as they seem, sometimes fueling more consumption instead of less. We'll explore why that happens, the psychology that keeps us buying, and how the jeans you donate in the US can end up in a fisherman's net off the coast of Ghana. Okay, I'm not going to lie, I hate shopping. Nothing against new clothes, it's just the whole hassle of navigating crowded stores, endless racks, and queuing outside changing rooms. I just haven't got the patience for that anymore. I know that some people enjoy the hunt for new and trendy clothes, but not me. So usually, every few years when I need new clothes, I just buy everything online in one fell swoop and be done with it. And it's that time again. I need some new shirts and maybe a pair of trousers, only this time I'm doing something different. I'm trying second-hand clothes online. Okay, so when I enter second-hand clothes online shopping on Google here, a couple of sites that pop up. The first one is Sellpy, then there's Odoo, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, Momox Fashion, Vestiaire, Depop, Vinted. Yeah, let's click onto Vinted. I've heard that before. Okay, so here's a sweater for €230. I think I'll be giving that a miss. Yeah, It turns out second-hand is growing 2 to 3 times faster than the new apparel market. Bricks and mortar vintage stores are popping up everywhere. You might be familiar with a few in your own city or town. But digital is growing the fastest. In 2024, online transactions made up 88% of money spent in US resale, which is another word for the pre-loved market.
It has been surprising to understand and see how fast the market has grown, because really a lot of consumers have adopted secondhand as a way of consuming. It's become a really established habit for a lot of people. And I think back in 2016, we expected it to be successful, but I don't think we expected it to grow quite as strongly as it has done, especially over the past few years.
That's Neil Saunders. He's Managing Director and Retail Analyst at Global Data Retail. He's been analysing the second-hand retail market since 2016. And in 2024, his company found it was worth $227 billion.
It's slightly lower than Apple's product sales, so it's a really big number.
And I have to say, it really is a far cry from the kind of second-hand shopping I remember from back in the day, when you'd go into a kind of chaotic, musty shop run by a non-profit like Oxfam and trawl through massive rails of clothes to find a t-shirt there for £1 or so.
Secondhand isn't about low-income consumers anymore. It isn't about the lowest possible price. It's actually attracting people from across the income spectrum.
And it seems a lot of different factors are driving the sector too.
It's now a sector where people go for fun. It's a creative sector. People love going there, finding unique things, putting them together in their own style, mixing them with other products that they've got. And actually, a lot of the younger consumers, Gen Z and millennials, have driven some of these new reasons for shopping.
And my namesake Neil says another big reason is shoppers being more conscious of the environmental impact of their clothes. And that's something brands are aware of too. Zara, H&M and the North Face, just to name a few, are now selling second-hand clothes online.
And the retailers really wanted to get in on the act. They wanted a piece of this growth.
So I took my search over there. Okay, so I'm here on Sellpy now. And I need a couple of button-down shirts. Okay, so let's see. Okay, now they don't just sell own brand. It's interesting. And I can look for shirts here also according to size. There's a nice plain one. It's just €15. Okay, that's seems like a bargain. And, this is interesting, this website also tells me I'll be saving 2.69 kilograms of CO2 if I buy this one, this shirt, instead of something new. According to the website, that's enough to produce 3 kilos of strawberries, CO2 that is. Kind of interesting, very random, but yeah. And it also saves 2,250 litres of water. Okay, well, just shopping here is making me feel great, doing my bit for the planet. Some retailers are even offering repair services, which all sounds good because some 10 to 30% of clothes produced are never worn or sold. We are getting better at recycling our garments, but the rates just can't keep up with the sheer amount the fashion sector is pumping out, especially with the rise of fast fashion. Instead of a few autumn, winter and spring-summer collections each year, new trends are being pumped out weekly. But reselling and repairing what we already have could lower emissions by 16%. We'll be right back after this short message.
I'm Samir Patel, editor-in-chief at Quanta Magazine. Our mission at Quanta is to cover what we call basic or fundamental research in science and math. That means the kind of work that's driven by curiosity and discovery and the search for knowledge. We're interested in how and why everything around us works the way that it does. On our brand new show, the Quanta Podcast, you'll meet the writers and editors behind the magazine, and together we'll explore the biggest ideas and the tiniest details. Join me for the Quanta Podcast, your weekly dispatch from the frontiers of science and math.
So big brands getting in on the resale action has to be good, right? Well, the problem is that some of these resale platforms are closely linked to the brand's main cash cow or core business, which is new clothing. For example, I can trade in my own stuff at brands like the North Face if it's one of their products. If I do that, I can get in-store credit, so $5 for a shirt or $25 for a jacket. But there is a caveat. I can only use that credit to buy new clothes, so that boosts their first-hand business.
In some platforms, it's even already integrated, so you wouldn't spot a difference. The new fashion and the second-hand fashion, so that you can buy them on the very same platform and partially even integrated on the same page.
That's Sascha Reitel, a professor who researches sale mechanisms for the Free University in the German capital Berlin. So, as another example, if I scroll through the offerings on the online platform Zalando Pre-Owned, sponsored posts for new shirts and trousers slip into my feed. Let's kind of add this to the basket, the shopping basket. When DW asked Zalando about this, they said they wanted to create a seamless shopping experience. They also said, and this is a quote, over 40% of pre-owned customer orders combine items with new fashion. Sascha says shoppers scanning pre-loved fashions online might recognize some of the same psychological tools used to drive sales from the first-hand market, like over here on Zalando Pre-Owned. See that if I spend more than €30, I get free delivery and returns. Right, that's Zalando renewed now. Just hopping over to Sellpy again. And here I can see there's a last chance to buy bar on one side of the screen. And this definitely gives me the sense that I might regret not buying this product.
So that's a general selling technique that applies to any kind of product. And the idea behind these kind of limited offers is to create a kind of urgency and to make the product more scarce. So in a sense, like you're a consumer, you're exposed to these kind of limited offers only today for you for €4. You have to buy it today. If you don't do it, tomorrow you won't get this good offer.
But these aren't the only techniques aimed at tempting me to continue shopping. There are AI-assisted style chats, prompting me with questions like, how do I put together a capsule wardrobe for all? In fairness, this is probably the kind of help I do need. Some brands like Sellpy work with influencers. You like the oversized olive cardigan and blue jeans combo the guy's wearing in the post? Well, why not check out a bunch of similar items from the site suggested for you? And handily, those influencers sometimes come with discount codes.
So in general, these kind of tools fuel among the consumers the need to buy more. That's part of the business model of these fashion retailers, for example, because if you not shop just one item, like a t-shirt, like trousers, whatever it is, but a whole style, by definition, you have to buy more because you have to buy the whole style, right? So that everything fits together. And this way you create like the need among the consumers, I need to buy more to really fit this ideal picture of I'm a stylish person.
We asked the companies about their resale techniques. Sellpy got back, saying that they, quote, understand the concern that these incentives could mimic patterns of overconsumption. However, the core difference lies in what's being consumed. Each item sold through Sellpy is already in circulation. But does it really matter if I overconsume second-hand clothes? It's surely better than buying first-hand. One study by researchers in the Netherlands compared different types of shoppers and their emissions. And it turns out the answer to that is a bit complicated. The researchers took 3 typical shoppers who have just bought a shirt. Let's call them Billy, Robin, and Kim. Billy is an attached consumer, and he wears his shirt 80 times. Robin is an average consumer, so he holds onto his shirt for 40 wears. Kim, the fashionable consumer, wears hers 10 times before tossing it and moving on to the next trend. So Kim will need 8 times more shirts than Billy. Basically, the study found that fashionable second-hand consumers like Kim create more emissions than attached first-hand shoppers like Billy. That's because the environmental cost of making and discarding a shirt stays with it throughout its life cycle, no matter how many owners it has. So a new shirt is better than a quickly discarded second-hand one if you hold onto it for a long time and wear it loads. The answer to the what's better, second-hand or new, changes slightly for a dress though, because dresses are heavier and need more material, making them produce more emissions. Dresses also tend to be worn less frequently. So it's better to buy a dress second-hand and give it a longer life. But wait, there's more. Now we get to the question of whether your second-hand purchase is actually replacing something you would have bought new. This is called the displacement rate and is a measure of how effective circular business models are in replacing the use of new resources with recycled ones. It's kind of hard to know what overall displacement rates are, but one survey by British NGO WRAP that looked at peer-to-peer platforms such as eBay and Depop found a displacement rate of around 65% on pre-loved purchases in the UK. So out of every 5 items bought second-hand, 3 of them are replacing new items. That's good, but needs to happen on a much larger scale. Otherwise, we end up increasing consumption overall, says Liz Ricketts from the Orr Foundation.
I don't think that consuming secondhand is always conscious. I think that there's a lot of ways to consume anything that's cheap in a very unconscious way. That doesn't necessarily fundamentally change our behaviors.
So what else would help? And what has all this got to do with your jeans ending up in a fisherman's net in Ghana? One of Liz Ricketts' favourite places in the world is
the largest secondhand clothing market in the world. The market is called Kantamanto.
Kantamanto is in Ghana's capital, Accra. The country receives about 15 million pieces of used clothing, largely from the West, each week. Traders and tailors at the huge market sort through bags of the deliveries. Looking for bargains, they then sell at stalls, covered with brightly coloured parasols.
It's an incredibly creative environment where people for over 50 years have been reselling, repairing, upcycling things at scale, like one-off, very, hip outfits, but also taking men's shirts and turning them into boxers and exporting them around the region, really industrial scale stuff.
When the market first started, the story goes that locals couldn't believe anyone would give away so much stuff that was in such good condition and of such high quality. And they assumed the previous owners of said items must have died. So a common term for second-hand apparel in Ghana is obroni wawu, or dead white man's clothes. But now, when the traders sift through bags of old garments to dig out bargains, what they actually find is cheap, fast fashion of such bad quality that about 40% of the products now end up discarded.
The quality of the clothing that's being produced now, especially over the last decade, is so low that people not only can they no longer make a high quality product when they're upcycling it, but they can also no longer sell it for enough value to make their money back. So people are starting to go into debt. And because they're going into debt and they don't have money to repair and upcycle everything, more of the clothing is leaving the market as waste and ending up in places like the beach.
One thing producers can do is actually make clothes that last. Stuff that doesn't tear, lose its shape, or fade after a few washes. Because if it doesn't, there's no chance to resell it, remake it, or recycle it. Instead, it ends up burned or on a landfill in the US or Europe, or sometimes in a fisherman's net off the coast of Ghana. The key is moving away from the fast fashion cycle, where clothes are basically disposable from day one. So is second-hand part of the solution? Liz says yes, but only if we don't end up fast-fashioning the resale market.
There's no shortage of clothing in circulation. So I would still very much like for people to patronize these companies and choose secondhand over choosing new. And I also do think that we need marketing dollars behind sustainability efforts. So I think it's good if companies are marketing resale and being smart about it, using the tools that we use to market new clothes, to market secondhand clothes. I think it's just we also need to couple that with a fundamental re-education on how clothing is made and get more involved in that process.
It's all a step in the right direction. But Liz and other experts also want fashion companies to be transparent about how much they are producing in the first place.
So what we really need to see from the brands, if they're serious about resale and upcycling and repair programs, is they need to publish their production volumes and then set displacement targets. So for instance, they could say by 2027, we want to displace 10% of the product that we're currently creating new with transactions that represent resale. So used clothing instead of new, right?
Otherwise, it's hard to say whether resale is actually stopping retailers from producing more. It's also hard to know how many items of clothing are being produced each year because of that lack of transparency. Some estimates put the figure at 100 billion, which is kind of crazy when you think there are only 8 billion of us on the planet. And that right there is the crux of the problem.
The reality is that all of those solutions are being buried under an endless or infinite amount of stuff that is being produced. And so it should be a reminder to us, but also to the industry, that we cannot solve this fashion waste crisis if we do not get serious about the root cause, which is overproduction and how many garments are being produced every year.
There's more down here. So, thinking about it and looking at everything in my online shopping basket right now, secondhand though it may be, I might just hold on to what's already in my wardrobe for just a little bit longer. And that wraps up this episode of Living Planet. It was put together by Jennifer Collins, based on research and interviews conducted by Katharina Schanz from DW's Planet A team. You can check out Planet A on YouTube. They have a fantastic channel there with lots of top-tier environment videos. Gerd Georgi mixed this week's episode, and it was edited and presented by me, Neil King. Thanks for listening and sharing Living Planet with friends and family. We hope you'll be joining us again next week. Bye for now.